You know, here's the thing. I think we tend to overcomplicate things when there's always a simpler option. And I think this is by design. You know, with everything we do in life and with everything that we see, we believe to outdo the competition, to outdo what is already out there, we need to overcomplicate the process, overcomplicate the design, overcomplicate our methods when you can stand out by just keeping it simple. This is a very tough pill for me to swallow. First of all, pause. And that's because I tend to categorize myself as an overachiever. And for me to overachieve, I believe I have to overcomplicate the process. In the long run, that does not bring any benefits at all. And the lack of benefits is where I'm at right now, where I'm starting to feel like, what's the point of doing all this? I'm putting all this effort and all this brain power to create these type of content, but it's still not getting pushed out. So when I weigh the time I've put in the overcomplication of how I go about doing things, it's just not marrying the results I want or the progress I want. You see, I have said countless times that how I create content is not the traditional way. I don't plan, I don't storyboard, I don't plan these shots. I just go in by feel. And for me, this has created this expectation of myself where I feel like I have to outdo each video I produce. It's very tough doing that when you don't have a plan in place. You could say, why don't I just start planning? I have kind of embroiled it in my DNA that I don't even need to. I think that this is the best way of being more efficient. And I'm starting to realize that it's not. It's not the best way to go about things. But this is my process and I've gotten comfortable doing it. You see, without a plan, there's no direction. Let's think about it. For you to get a perfect enough drawing, you need a sketch. For you to erect a building, you need some blueprints. So it's almost like there is a required step before you actually start executing whatever plan you have. Is this always the blueprint to follow? Possibly not, because some people are just very coordinated in how they want to do things and they don't need a layout, no plan first. I fall into that category. I'm really starting to consider that for you to get the best of your abilities, you need to have some form of groundwork in place. And this is almost embarrassing to kind of state, because for the longest I've been preaching, just go without no plan in place and see what you can produce. I still hold true to that statement. I'm not gonna lie, because I think for you to refine what you know or what you don't know, you should start. And how you start doesn't really matter. The whole point is that you actually start. I've stated in a past video that you shouldn't expect success when you put out content. You should actually expect that your video is not going to do well. In doing this, you're creating a passion for what you do and you're not necessarily creating for success. Now, the thing is that you hope to succeed, but you're not expecting to succeed because you can't tell what the algorithm is going to do. So in that process, whether your process is overcomplication or oversimplification, you're just creating for the sheer love of creating. But we're all human, and we all technically live by metrics. We want to see that our effort is being rewarded with some form of progress or some form of results. So the realization that I'm coming to is that it doesn't really matter your process. It doesn't really matter your effort. The only effort that matters is your consistency. That's pretty much it. Your content doesn't really matter in terms of what it took for you to produce that content. The point of the matter is people just want to see a finished work. You are the only person that cares about the process it took or the length of time it took or the effort it took to put out something for the masses. The masses don't care, they just care about the finished product. So in me realizing all this, the stress that I use to put out content only matters to me. That's why overcomplication doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect anybody. It's not a real thing. It's only real to what you decide an overcomplicated process is. I think when you can recognize which one you're doing, you would be able to be well equipped to know what adjustments to make. Now, I don't think overcomplication is necessarily a bad thing. It only matters when that overcomplication is affecting your well-being or affecting your drive to want to continue to do what you have a passion for. And I've just been debating in my mind for these past couple of weeks that should I take some time off because I'm starting to feel mentally burnt out. And I'm not trying to make a video to gain sympathy. I don't need to overcomplicate my process. And here's another thing I further realized. The perception of the audience and the perception of you is completely different. Who's creating the video and who's watching the video, the perspectives are completely different. To you watching this video right now, you might just think I'm moving a camera from point A to point B and just putting lighting up and just talking. That doesn't seem too complicated. But in reality, I need to think about moving a camera from point A to point B without losing my train of thought because I have no script written, and having the perfect balance of light and darkness and depth and everything, and doing this all by myself. I don't have a crew. I don't have somebody that records for me. I'm recording myself. So the perception of what they see versus what I'm doing is completely different. And using that very vein and that very same mindset, I could easily just put a camera in one spot and talk. They don't really care about much. People gravitate to the information. Now, aesthetics is also a big thing. People want to get hit with the dopamine from what they're seeing. So I understand the whole process, but I don't think the main thing is all the camera movements and all of that. If you are in a avenue where you are into cinematography and all of that, then that's when all that really matters. But if you're just in the whole business of passing along information, how you do it might be the least important thing to the audience versus just the information that you are trying to pass across. And I believe this is important to understand if you're trying to get into content creation or, doing some form of content in general. The effort you use only matters to you. The audience who sees your video are only worried about the final product. So in essence, you can pass along some form of information through a very simple way rather than doing the most. I think we tend to overcomplicate things because of what we see online. I've said this before. Comparison is a thief of joy. So we tend to believe for us to outdo the competition, we have to be overproduced. We have to cross every T and dot every I and make sure each color correction is specific and perfect, and making the audio as perfect as possible. We need to add extra to our videos to pop out and create this form of visual effect that the audience can deem as undeniable. And the funny thing is, all that just lasts like 10 seconds and the audience is going on to the next thing. So it's a funny thing, and like overcomplicating things can literally just be the reason you stop continuing your passion. That's essentially what the whole point of this video is about. I overcomplicated this video as well because I did the exact same thing I was doing in other videos that got me to this point where I'm feeling a little bit burnt out. But to you, it just seems like I'm moving a camera and I already have all this information like prepped. But no, I don't have none of this prepped. I don't have no scripts. I'm going off of feel, and I'm trying to produce something that is at least different. To me, that is overcomplicating the process. Somebody else watching this process I'm doing is very, very simple. So really, overcomplication is really just subjective to who's creating it and their level of expertise in creating it. That will determine if what they're doing is complicating the process or simplifying the process. And that's pretty much it. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, tell me in the comments if you are overcomplicating something that could be done by simply just doing one thing or whatever. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a discussion about it. With all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. God bless. Peace.